I hit start. Good morning. It's May 17th. I'm Sabah Hassan. I'm a director in school finance. And I'm sorry, we're starting a little late. Usually I start with a little bit of housekeeping and stalling so that people have time to hit refresh. So I'll go slow for a second. If you haven't been here before, this looks like a YouTube video, but unlike a YouTube video, I'm not going to be monitoring the comments at all. Instead, the top of the video where it says ask a question at slides.app.google SC6PZ, that shows, and then I can actually show your question on the screen. Last week, the week before, Lyle went to an Ask Us meeting, and he took a set of slides kind of describing the beginning and end of this year. So these are those slides, simplified a little bit because I'm not Lyle, but I just wanted to make sure everybody had access to the same things. So here they are. There is a new system that we're using to track schools and districts and charter schools. Like Enterprise used to have a CTDS number for every site. This is going to be replacing that. So all of these schools and things are still going to have a CTDS number. We're still going to ask you about your governing body approval before we make changes. The system is just named the EdOrg system now instead of called Enterprise. And to still help support it a little bit because we can finally store better detail, we're going to be replacing our entity profile form so that we can ask better questions about each entity type when we go to make a change. So for example, if I need to know for small school weight how your charter is related to another charter, we'll be replacing the form so that we can ask about your governing board or your management organization, things like that, that our form has been restrictive of in the past. When 2020 starts, so technically each fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th, the first payment of 2020 is going to be August 1st. The August 1st payment is going to be based off of fiscal year 1900 day ADM for school districts as of July 9th. And charters will either use the fiscal year 20 summary ADM or charter estimated counts. Then the second payment of the year is going to be September 1st, and that's when we're expecting to use AZ's data as of the second Tuesday in August for everybody. Kind of as we're gearing up for that new year, we're working on a calendar trading, and it's bigger than I expected, but we plan on posting it as a PDF, especially now that the May 1st excitement has died down. So when we post it, we'll send it out to people as well, like a link so people can find it. Another thing to plan for next year is there's no longer going to be such a thing as a program-only membership. Back in fiscal year 16, we needed a program-only membership to be able to collect, I want to say something to do with jails and sped memberships, but in any case, it's no longer necessary, but ESS discovered that people are still using program only because it gets around some integrity rules. So ESS emailed all the LEAs that are using it back in January and asked them to switch their memberships. We're expecting that the only legitimate case for a program-only membership would have been a parentally private placed student, and to submit those in 2020, you should be using a membership type M and a tuition payer code 2, and in theory, program-only won't even be available in 2020. So there's that exciting change for 2020. As you gear up for 2020, there is the question about pre-registered students and what happens when we're sharing a pre-registered students. What do I do after 10-day drop? If you rolled over all your students last year being 19 and one of them doesn't return, you can use the S codes that you find on the official notice of pupil withdrawal, and the official notice of pupil withdrawal is on the accountability website. If you go through and read the graduation, dropout, and persistence rate technical manual, it'll help you understand the next bullet there is, in theory, a student in K through 5 doesn't affect your graduation and dropout rate, so if you'd rather no-show the student and delete the membership instead of S-coding it, it should be fine, but the S-codes will work for all grades. But both of those resources are available at the accountability website, the graduation dropout persistence rate technical manual, and the official notice of pupil withdrawal. I'm going to scroll through some of these questions to see if any of them have been about 2020. Okay, wow, all of these showed up within the same minute as each other, and they have a variety of topics, so I'm going to wait till the end for those. I want to start using some different terminology on some of our forms. There is a form that you submit when you're sending a kid to a private school. We call it a tuition out form. This is the fourth bullet. What we use the form for is to create an alternate ed.org permission between your LEA and the private school you're sending the kiddo to. So this side is one to tell you all of the different ways that school finance configures things for AZ submission. So generally, the ed.org system feeds AZs, so that's going to show AZs which schools belong to which districts and which charters. If you're approved to operate a dropout recovery program following 90106, we configure that in EOS. If you'll be submitting students to a community college following 90107, we configure that in EOS. The alternate ed.org for both submitting students to a JTED, submitting students to a private school, I think, and submitting students to a neighboring district. Well, those ones we configure, and the other one is 200-day calendar approvals. So there's a few different configuration things we do in EOS. The last one is a configuration thing we'll do in AZs itself, is if you get approved for other calendars. So generally the rule is we expect every school to operate a 4-day or a 5-day calendar. If you also operate maybe an AM and a PM kindergarten and they're staggered and so you think they need different calendars, those should be available in 2020 in the UI directly. But if, for example, you're operating a whole nother, for example, your alternative school students have different vacations than your regular students, we can set it up so that you can have an additional calendar. So there's that last calendar approval. We'll set it up on our website before we really get going with 2020 so people can access that more easily. Another thing that's changing for 2020 is there was a bill this past session that lowered the annual required instructional hours for 7th and 8th grade. So it's going to be 890 now. I find though that a lot of people set up their schedules to be way more than necessary, so hopefully this won't be a trial for you. And then switching gears from gearing up for 2020 to winding down 2019. If you need to request for the third prior year, so fiscal year 16, a 915, we are having trouble in SACE. And as you remember, SACE integrity and SACE aggregation take much longer than integrity and ACE in AZs do. So we're asking for you to please submit your letter before May 31st if you need to do a 915 in fiscal year 16, because we do want to have those all complete and off to payments by July 1. So that's our goal here. Kind of scrolling through questions. Oh, we had a school finance, a new charter training the first week of May, so we're posting the PowerPoint of that on our website for new charters who didn't attend to just pull it off our website. But we do plan on, right before the calendar deadline, doing Thursday workshops to sweep it up for people who are having trouble with instructional calendar. So that's our plan. And I think the bit that Lyle talked about the most at Ask Us was merge tickets. We've been working all spring on getting better at prioritizing merge tickets, and so my team really plugged in April and resolved 950 tickets, which was fantastic, and it says something about the average resolve rate of a ticket, so that was helpful information, and it also gave us an idea of what kind of tickets are out there for prioritization later. But then in that same 4-week time period, another 200 were created. So we are talking internally about what can we do to be better at assigning IDs in the first place, so that's not a problem, and how can we remain good at prioritizing how to process these. That said, it should be noted that we were doing merge tickets because we are having trouble with the split tool working, but we are working with IT. They're being pretty great. So I have a set of questions already waiting, but if anybody else needs to submit them, that's totally okay. First question is, why do phone calls from ADE appear as unknown on caller ID? I have never asked before, but I'll take that up to communication and see if I can get an answer. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting question. I think this question I still don't have an answer on. An anonymous user is asking, the generational indicator was addressed at ASCIS, but there are no guidelines on suffix from ADE. What if it's in the last name field? What if it's on one way on one doc and another on another? So I think the question is, what if I have two legal documents and they show the name differently? What do I do? Auditors have given us findings if it doesn't match the birth certificate. I will take that upstairs and ask. I know we recently updated our residency guideline. I think it doesn't hurt to talk about legal names. That's a good idea. An anonymous user asks, why does the LEA profile change without the district making a request to make changes, specifically the users and titles? I'm gonna need an example of that. To my knowledge, the LEA profiles aren't changing, so I haven't seen that. The LEA profile page is driven off of Enterprise, and our new system is designed to write to Enterprise. So I think there were some address changes last year that wrote over, and it wasn't that there were changes, it's that the 9-digit zip codes had a hyphen inserted in the middle. So the 5-digit zip code is intact, but the 9-digit zip code looks strange. So I know about that change, but I think I might need you to kind of respond with more detail about this one. This one looks less like a question and more like an opinion. An anonymous user is asking, what's the point in having email and phone numbers on an LEA profile? ADE should maintain that info internally. It's causing us to get spam and robocall. I appreciate your opinion. Other LEAs have asked for the opposite though, because when they're sharing a student, for example, a student transfers or is concurrent, they need to be able to reach each other. And also, we do maintain the state report cards, and parents need to be able to find a school for their new kids. So some phone numbers we do maintain on public websites. When will the STC 10 student teacher course verification report have a subject area select all option? I will take that to AZEDS and ask if it's on the roadmap. That one's interesting. I know they are working on some updates to STC reports, so I'm sure they'll be interested in this idea. So I'll take that one out to AZEDS. How do we request removal of people from our profile? Oh, I'll be very grateful. So I'll quick show you. It's we created ADE Connect, and ADE Connect is wonderful, and it allows the LEA to update their own permissions. Oh, good thing I'm the only one who's using this browser, because all of these suggested things are the same. Hooray. So if you go to our website, az.gov, www.az.gov, requests, I think, is the page we set up so that you can request to have common logon permissions added and removed. It's a form, and it sends the answers of the form to support and to school finance, I don't know, it's loading weird because I've zoomed in too far, but it's az.gov/requests. So that's how you get people added or removed from the common logon permissions. And it's the common logon permissions are what shows on the LEA profile. And in case anybody hadn't seen the LEA profile, let me see if I can go home again. For me, it's one page down from our home page. It says, ooh, fun. Find a school. I guess I might as well use the one in the example. Well, I mean, if I do it, you'll see people who work there. But essentially, if you go search for a school, maybe the school you work at, all the way at the bottom, it'll show you the people who work at your school who have permissions in Common Logon. So, okay, I see a complaint. I think the same anonymous user is complaining that using that form does it one user at a time. If that's a concern to you, then you can email me or set up and request a call. We'll talk through and see if it's, for example, if it's been too long and your whole staff have changed. I don't mind talking about a different way. So I'm saba.hussein@az.gov. So if you've met me before, you've seen my email before. Otherwise, it's sabah.hussain@az.gov. So we'll see if it's a really big, messy change, we can find another way to do it. So just because I think that's happened before, where literally everybody changed. That's not an outlandish ask. I'll give people a second for any other questions. I'm assuming as we head into the summer, we're not going to need School Finance Fridays with nearly the same urgency at all. They're still scheduled because I'm hoping that as we move forward, we learn a little bit more about calendar. And hopefully what we learn is that absolutely everybody is super duper prepared and everything flows into 2020 beautifully and easily. But just in case it doesn't, we still have School Finance Fridays scheduled, and just in case there's anything going on with our payments this summer, there's that. So we'll see you in 2 weeks on the 31st. Oh wait, I think I see a question. Okay, I think it's an instruction. So have a nice weekend, and we'll see you on the 31st.